I have staked my eternal soul on the act. I will not budge on the cost of their allegiance. Millions have died under the first four seals who were not martyrs. Now he's speaking to the martyrs. They might have been, if they had denied the book, they might have been steady. They would not compromise. They had a testimony. Do you know if you play church, it won't cost you much? But if you stand up, I heard a preacher the other day bragging. He thought he was using all kinds of wisdom. He had went to a Christmas party years ago, and the cooperation, they were serving strong men, and he said it would cost me my testimony if I didn't drink, but he poured him a Sprite, and everybody thought he was drinking like the rest of them. Let me tell you what, that didn't help his testimony, that hurt his testimony. I've heard some of the same people that say, go ahead, take a drink, take a drink, take a drink, ain't gonna hurt nothing, ain't gonna hurt nothing, and then turn right back around and condemn some deacon because they saw him drinking. Listen, they say, well, they won't love you. Who said they're supposed to love you? They're supposed to respect you, and they can't respect you if you compromise. I remember there was one boy there, he tormented me from the time I went to work to the time I left. He tormented me up one side and down the other. I hated to see him coming. He had drank and he had cussed and he had run around, but you know what? When his wife kicked him out of the door, guess who come knocking on my door? Why didn't he go knocking on somebody else's door? I'll tell you why. The same reason Pharaoh didn't ask them bunch of soothsayers, them bugle-nosed drunks. Your testimony is very, very valuable. The cost, but also in verse number 10, you see the cry of vengeance. And they cried with a loud voice, how long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? Have you ever wondered why God does not settle the score now? How many of y'all been hurt people? Well, if you hadn't never been hurt, chances are you've never lived godly, because the Bible says all that desire to live godly shall suffer persecution. And if you've been hurt, and you know vengeance is his, he will repay, but it don't look like he's repaying. Y'all know what I'm talking about? I'm going to tell you. Sometimes you wonder, well, Lord, how long's it going to take? How long's it going to be? You say, well, I just don't know about praying for vengeance. Paul did. And by the way, you know the worst vengeance you can pray for somebody? And I just imagine, and maybe my motives ain't totally pure, but I'm getting right down to the bottom of the skillet, okay? Somebody does you wrong. How many of you want them to know they did you wrong and to be sorry for it? Every one of us. Pray that they get right with God. Then they'll be sorry for it. Things that I've done. And I wish to goodness I could undo them. But I can't. Pray that they... Remember we read this? He prayed about Alexander the coppersmith, that God would repay him. How long? And Jesus speaks, rest, be patient a while longer. I like that old song. Maybe you've heard it. We'll understand it better. God is saying, just because I have not repaid them now, doesn't mean that it's escaped my sight. So the fifth seal, we see the martyrs in peace. Secondly, in verses 12 through 17, we see men in panic. Notice in verse number 15, and the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, every free man. Who are these? They are the very ones he's talking about in verse number 10. How long, holy and true, dost thou not our blood on them that dwell on the earth? These are the people that were so high and mighty they thought they could tread and get by with it. These men of great power and prideful men. Men that pushed their weight around. What did they see? In verse number 12 says, a great earthquake. The whole earth shook. Read something with me. Turn backwards to the book of Hebrews, chapter 12. And I want to read 2 verses of scripture. Verse 20, write these verses down and go back and whose